Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and another video. So today we are going to be discussing all of the books that I read in July. I have Ollie playing in the background, so if you can hear any random growling noises or just any random noises in general, that's him. So I did manage to read all of the books that I put on my TBR for July, and then I also managed to read I think one extra because I read 7. So let's just get straight into talking about these books, and then at the end I will give you guys an update on how I'm going for the year, month, etc. Wow, it feels like so long ago. The first book that I picked up in July was The Blood of Olympus, which is the 5th and final book in the Heroes of Olympus by Rick Riordan. So in case you don't remember, the last book I read in the month of June was The House of Hades, which was the book prior to this one. I was on a really kind of big Heroes of Olympus kick, and so I decided that I wanted to jump immediately into this book, and purely because I was enjoying it, but also because I just wanted to finish this book series, and also because I had to film my update videos for how I was going with a couple of my book challenges that this one features on. I just wanted the satisfaction of saying that I had read it. I struggled with this. I think I read too many fantasies back to back. They're really quite thick, they're really quite convoluted, so I think I just struggled with having to read so much fantasy back to back that I actually had to listen to the audiobook in spots and listen to the audiobook and also read it in conjunction to get through it. I did end up rating it 3 stars. I rated the entire series 3 stars. It was just a very 3-star kind of series for me. I'm glad I've read it. I guess I did enjoy this series for the most part. The ending though, I really hope the rest of the heroes find out what happened with this one particular character. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I'm really glad that, you know, they sorted their shit out, that the camps came together, they worked together. Some people I didn't like were killed, which I thought was fantastic. Yeah, there's not really much I can say without giving away the entire plotline of the series, and I feel like I've done that enough, but I am really glad that I've read this one, especially because this is one less Rick Riordan series on my bookshelves. And I've only got 3 more to go, but that's a next year problem. So after going to Rick Riordan books back to back, I decided that I needed a light, easy contemporary. So I picked up We Can't Keep Meeting Like This by Rachel Lynn Solomons. So this focuses on Quinn and Tarek. I couldn't find the male lead's name. So both of their parents are in the sort of like wedding industry. So Quinn's parents are both wedding planners, and they basically have a family-run wedding planning business. So her parents run it, her sister's now a part of it, and Quinn, unfortunately, also plays a role in it, but is also at times made to play the harp during people's weddings. And Tarek, his parents own a catering business that Quinn's parents work with quite often, so they will supply the food and the wedding cake at these weddings. So they run into each other quite a lot. Quinn, in the previous summer, confessed her feelings in an email to Tarek, and he never got back to her, and she's really not excited to see him back this summer. So they work through that issue, they try to get together, but the entire time they are together, Tarek is trying to do these grand gestures, and she's like, I need you to stop. Like, I'm not into that. I don't believe this lovey-dovey fairy tale. I hate weddings. I hate love. And also at the same time, she meets this woman who is also a harpist, also builds harps, and Quinn ends up secretly helping her with her business and decides that, you know what, yeah, being in the wedding planning business is not for me, and I don't want to be a part of this, but she doesn't know how to tell her parents. For the most part, I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. I really just can't get behind the mentality that some parents have of, oh, this is the family run business, because it's my business, my kids are going to want to be as invested and involved in it as I am. So I didn't really like her parents, and their reactions to her not wanting to be a part of their business was a little bit annoying at the end. But for the most part, I really did enjoy it at the start. It just kind of fell flat towards the end for me. I can relate to Quinn because I also don't like lovey-dovey grand gestures. They freak me out. But that was the second book that I picked up. And then the third book I picked up, I actually read in one day, and that was Wretched. This is the third book in the Never After novel series by Emily McIntyre. She basically takes classic fairy tales and sort of makes them fractured fairy tales, and sort of takes the villain from the story and says like, well, what if we make them the love interest? We obviously focus on Wicked / The Wizard of Oz. Going into this book, I didn't know whether we were going to focus more on The Wizard of Oz or more on sort of like the Wicked aspect. As someone who's not very heavily, I guess, involved or invested or aware of kind of the storylines of Wretched, like with The Lion King and Peter Pan, I'm across. Like, I've watched them a million times. I'm a massive Disney fan. Wicked and Wizard of Oz is not something that I have spent a lot of time watching or paying attention to, so I'm not as across their stories and plot lines as I am with the first 2 fairy tales. details that this series focuses on. So I think that was a good thing for me because I didn't really go into it with kind of higher expectations or kind of knowing, I guess, the lore that the story is pulling from. But we focus on our main character. I'm just gonna call it Eve. Her father is a bit of like a drug lord. However, she is the genius who actually creates the drug. It's like the flying monkey. She had an older sister. Their mother passed away. Dad ended up going to jail. So the sister raised her and then her other older sister. So Nessa is the older sister that dies that raised them. And then Dorothy is Eve's older sister. So that was a nice little nod to it. But yeah, we focus on Nicholas and Eve. Nicholas is an undercover cop who is trying to find out who is the main supplier and creator of the flying monkey. So he gets involved with Eve's family because he knows that they're really quite heavily involved in it, and they're trying to get up and reveal who is the main creator of this source so that they can take that person down. But in the process, he kind of starts falling in love with Eve. This is still very dark romance, still mafia vibes. There was senseless killing, but it bothered me less in this book. For me, it kind of felt a bit more legit, and we were kind of killing characters that I didn't really like that were bad guys. I was kind of like, okay. We had a badass main character in Eve. I just kind of felt like this book was a bit more justified with the things that they were doing. Maybe I'm a little bit desensitized to this kind of tropes that goes on in this book. I still rated this one 2 stars, which is what I've rated, I think, every book in this series. Like, it is the best one out of the 3 that I've read so far. Like, I'm saying it's the best, but I'm comparing it to books that I don't think that are that great. Like I said before, Emily McIntyre's writing is really easy for me to read. Like I said, I read this book in 1 day, but I rated it 2 stars. So it's easy to read. I just don't like the themes. I don't enjoy the way that she does sex scenes, can't cope with the dirty talk and the kind of villains and stuff like that. But I do think this is the best out of the 3 that I've read. So that's Wretched. And then the 4th book that I picked up, I decided that I also needed to return back to a nice fluffy romance. So I thought, it's time we give this one a go. So I picked up Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. If you watched my TBR video for July, I went on a little bit of a mini rant about how I don't get the cowboy obsession with books. Like, I just don't get it. I kind of get it now. Slightly understand the obsession. Still not what I would go for, but I kind of get it. So we focus on our main character, Emmy, and then also the male love interest is Luke. So Emmy is like a competitive horse rider, and she has an accident that is really quite traumatizing for her. And if things had just been, like, if she had not landed in the position that she had landed in, she most likely would have died. And I also think that the type of accident she had was also very similar to the accident that actually killed her mother. So that was a bit traumatizing for her. So she grew up in this small town. Her family owns a ranch, which is Rebel Blue Ranch from memory, I think it's called. It's run by her dad. And then she has 2 older brothers, and then she's the youngest, and then there's also the unofficial, I guess, 3rd brother, which is Luke, who is best friends with her older brothers, and she has never been able to stand him. Because of her accident, she decides to come back home and is petrified to get back on a horse, understandably. She eventually confides in him, and eventually he helps her kind of overcome that fear and get back on the horse, and they have a little cute love story bloom that they have to keep secret because her brother is a firecracker and will lose his shit if he finds out that his best friend is dating his sister. I did at times find the love story a little bit insta-lovey in this one. I thought it happened a little bit too quick. I know that they have like a history, but the thing is that their history was never really positive. He was always picking on her. It wasn't like a positive kind of, I've always had a little crush on you kind of thing. It was kind of like, I can't stand you. And then all of a sudden there's this insta-lovey kind of scenario happening. So I didn't find it super realistic. I did really quite enjoy it. I ended up rating it 4 stars. I immediately finished this book and decided that I had to go and pick up the sequel, which was Swift and Saddled, which I picked up immediately afterwards. So we may as well just jump straight into the 5th book that I read. I also rated this one 4 stars, and it focuses on Ada and Wes, who is the middle child. So basically dad runs the ranch. Then we have the next brother, who is Gus. So yeah, we go Gus. He's kind of being prepped to take over the ranch. He's going to inherit it. He's going to be the one that basically runs it after his dad decides to step down. We then have Wes, who is the middle child and main character in this one. He doesn't really know what he wants to do, but he's trying to make a mark on the ranch. So he basically convinces his entire family to let him renovate what they call the big house, which is where, when the ranch was first built, that was the family house that everyone lived in. However, his father had some bad memories there because his dad wasn't really great. So he decided to build a new house ranch, which is where everybody lives, and the big house has kind of become run down. So as such, Wes is allowed to renovate it, and he wants to turn it into like a guest house kind of a thing where people can come and stay and kind of experience the ranch life. So in this book, we do focus on the building and the renovating of that. And Ada is the interior designer who is recommended by Emmy's best friend, Teddy. They used to work together when they did interior designing in at college. So she actually comes out from the city to look after this project and do it. And her and Wes actually meet one another at the bar the night before, but don't realize who each other are. And then the next day is a little bit awkward when they meet up. I found their love story so much more realistic than the love story between Emmy and Luke. This for me was believable. It was sweet. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel insta-lovey. It felt genuine, and I really, really adored it. I definitely preferred this book to Done and Dusted. I think one thing that I also really like that Lila Sage does is that she sets up the next book really, really well. So like by the time the first book ends, you're already invested in this book and you want to know whether it's Wes or Guz's story. In Done and Dusted, I was like, I just want the Teddy and Gus book. And I was low-key thinking that this was going to be the Teddy and Gus book, but it turned out to be the Ada and Wes story, which I don't mind. But I'm really excited because the third book is Lost and Lassoed, and that is the Teddy and Gus story, which is the one I'm really intrigued by because there's so much tension between the two of them that I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to pick it up. I did really enjoy this book, and I really like that Ada and Wes kind of make the long distance thing work because obviously she lives in the city and he's out on the farm. But it was really fantastic and I really enjoyed it, and I did rate it 4 stars if I haven't said that yet. And then I picked up Always Jane by Jen Bennett. I have read all of Jen Bennett's novels and adored most of them, but I was really hesitant to pick this one up just because it has been a number of years since I have read a Jen Bennett novel, and I was just really hesitant that because my reading interests have drastically changed, like I'm more into reading kind of adult style novels now, which is understandable, like I'm 31. I really can't relate to what 18 and 19-year-olds are doing anymore. Like that's not my interest, and that's fine. Unfortunately for me, this book just did not hit the mark whatsoever. I did not really enjoy it. I rated it 2.5 stars. It is 100% my least favorite Jen Bennett novel. I didn't really like any of the characters or the plotline or really anything that was going on. I do think that this is probably going to be the last new Jen Bennett book that I read. I don't think I'm going to continue on buying her books just because I think I have very much outgrown them and they're just kind of not the books to me that I want to read. But we do focus on our main character, Jane, and then also the love interest, Fen. So one summer, Jane was kind of obsessed with Fen's older brother and he kind of rejects her. So she ends up going to this dam that's like in the middle of the town, and she actually falls into it, and Fen jumps in and saves her, and they have to like resuscitate her. And because of how long she was kind of like dead for, she's kind of now got a bit of amnesia. She's also now got like difficulty speaking, memories. She can't always come up with the words that she needs to say. So she ends up just throwing out like descriptive words until someone can like prompt the word for her. Her father is the chauffeur for a really rich, I guess, producer. And so as such, she becomes like a personal assistant for one of his daughters, and they go back to the town the next couple summers later. She's kind of dating the older brother secretly, and everything's a mess. And she realizes that like Fen was the one that actually saved her, and there's whole relationship dramas. And I just didn't care for the love story. I didn't care for the plot. I didn't care for the characters. I just didn't really enjoy it. And as such, I gave it 2.5 stars, and there's not really a whole lot I want to say about this. And then the 7th and final book that I picked up was Crown of Feathers by Nikki Powell Preto. I just want to say that I was way off the mark in my July TBR. Wasn't even close. What I thought this book was about, it was not about. This book was so much better. In this story, we have a world where Phoenix riders were kind of the rulers of the world and the protectors of the land. The queen or king was always a phoenix rider, and that's how they wanted to keep their line strong. We then had a king who had a daughter. Her name was Avalkia? I can't pronounce it. But then her mother died, so he remarried somebody else who became queen and had another daughter as well. So in order to be a phoenix rider, you have to be an animage, and basically that means that you can like connect with animals. And she was not an animage, so as such, in their kind of laws, she wouldn't have been queen. However, there was also like a rebel queen going on as well. There was this thing called the Blood War, and these two princesses, because neither of them were actually crowned queen, they were on either sides of the war and they both ended up dying. And as a result, like the government came in and they basically just went out and executed / slaughtered all of the phoenixes and all of the phoenix riders because they wanted to just eliminate them because they obviously had a lot more power. And so it's like 16 years later, our main character is Veronica. Her parents died in the Blood War. Her and her older sister Val, they're trying to find phoenix eggs so they can become phoenix riders and find the rest of the phoenix riders. They find 2 phoenix eggs, however only one hatches, and it bonds with Veronica and she goes off to find the phoenix riders, which she does in fact manage to do. So in this story as well, we have 3 point of view. So we focus on Veronica. We then focus on Tristan, who is actually a phoenix rider. He's what they call an apprentice. He's trying to prove himself to his dad, who is the leader. And then the 3rd point of view we have is Sev, who is an animage in hiding in the military, who are coming to take out the Phoenix Riders. So that's how we all kind of link up. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. The entire time I was trying to guess what was going on. I did struggle with the first like 70-ish pages. It was very info dumpy and I struggled immensely. But once I kind of worked out what was going on, we got over the info dumping. It was a lot more enjoyable. I ended up rating it 4 stars and I'm really excited to continue the series. I've actually put Heart of Flames, which is the sequel, on my TBR for August, but that is Crown of Feathers. So now we need to do my statistics. The month of July, I did read 1 book on the 24 books that I want to read in 2024, which was The Blood of Olympus. On the book series that I want to read in 2024, I finished off the Heroes of Olympus series by reading The Blood of Olympus. I then also started the Crown of Feathers series. We just need to finish the Crown of Feathers, start Slammed, and start the Young Elite series. I had no 5-star reads for the month of July, which was interesting. I started the month off with 101 books. I read 7, I bought 1, which brought my total down to 95 books. So we have cracked the under 100 books goal that I wanted to achieve. I'm struggling with words. Then on my Taylor Swift reading challenge, I just ticked off the prompt for Reputation, which was a book with a badass main character. And I just went, you know what? Wretched will do. And then in the Speak Now Taylor's Version reading challenge, I'm pretty confident I didn't tick off anything. Nope, I didn't tick off a single prompt this month for that. That is all of the statistics for July and where I'm sitting at the end of this month. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you next week for another one. Bye.